Hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Movies in Focus podcast. I'm Niall Brown. As I always say, short films are difficult. It's easy to tell a story across 90 minutes or a couple of hours, where plot and characterization can expand and grow. However, it takes real skill to deliver something short, punchy, and more importantly, narratively cohesive within a couple of minutes. This takes us along nicely to Dakota Stone, a new short film from director Sherice Griffiths and writer Alfie Scattergood, aka Paul Knight. Clocking in at just 9 minutes, the film features professional dancer, choreographer, and Strictly Come Dancing star Nancy Zhu as an ass-kicking fixer. Offering up action and characterization, Dakota Stone is an entertaining little flick that works well within its own confines while also feeling like an amuse-bouche for a much larger story. Sherice Griffiths, Alfie Scattergood, and Nancy Zhu joined the Movies in Focus podcast to talk about Dakota Stone. During the course of the conversation, they discuss how the project came together, the logistics of making a short film in a limited time frame, as well as teasing the future of the Dakota Stone character in a larger format. And as always, I hope you enjoy what we have to talk about. Now that I have the three of you here, how did you all end up making Dakota Stone? How did it come together? How did the writing, directing, casting, how did all that happen?
Well, I started writing it during lockdown as a short film, and it was my first, the first one I've been able to get made, but I'd wrote a few more little shorts as well, and it was about 30, 40 pages or more, and which, unbeknownst to me, was way too long for a short film. And then I managed to contact Sherice, who was very kindly came on board and said, you need it to be, a 10-minute short film, really. So Sherice helps get it down to the required pages. I had already got Nancy and Mikey on board as the stars because, as again, being the first film we've done, I wanted, to give all people a chance for, say, their first time. Nancy and Mikey had great chemistry, etc. We're working on one of the fight scenes together, so it helped that they knew each other. It was one of their first ones, and they had, as I say, were working well. And Sherice, kindly sorted all the other crew and other cast out as well.
Yeah, that's how it all came about, really. So,
And I mean, when you're making a short film, Nancy, you're a dancer by trade. How did the acting come about for you? Have you acted before?
Well, that has to be, I must say, Dakota as a character, there's a little bit in me as a Dakota because since when I was little, I always loved watching all the martial art. Yes, I am a dancer as a background, which I have been trained as a dancer, but me and Mikey, we have been trained as a not become a martial artist, but I've learned like self-defense during the lockdown just for gain some skill, and plus I like kick. So there you go. I found my character to play, but I would say I always have had Dakota in me. So when Dakota come, I saw the script and I just felt like finally there's something I can try. I can show the different side of myself. Being a dancer, I can't really be very serious like the character Dakota has been gave. So I think Dakota has come in as a very good opportunity. But of course, Dakota is my very, very first movie shoot, let's say. I've been very lucky to meet Sherice and Paul write the script and all the cast, the camera, everyone was including in this film. I think it's been very kind, being like to someone has the first time to doing a movie. I think there's a lot of nervous there because not just if we all want to do well, and that's amazing because then we can show the amazing side of Dakota, but also another side I'm a bit nervous because English is not my first language, And yes, I am a professional dancer, but the the actions and the directions, you never get no. And also there's a back and forward, you have to chat with the people, you have to have a reaction. So there's actually a lot of things going on my mind while we're doing the Dakota. But as I said, Sherice has been amazing and being my very very first movie director, and she just so patient. She very kind and very gentle, and said, okay, maybe we can try this. Maybe so. The time when we actually did this film, I feel actually, if I think back, it's amazing experience to starting the other side of my let's say acting career.
And Sharice, Paul, when you said you wrote the script and Sharice came in and rejigged it, Sharice, once you start working with Nancy, do you change again when you've got an actor to try and suit their sensibilities? How does that work as a filmmaker, where you're almost like the funnel where it's all going to and sort of out of? How does that work?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, isn't it, where the script is never really done until you're kind of in the edit. So, we had a pretty solid draft to work from. We had as we say, we cut down a sort of 40 pages to a sort of more manageable 10. I would have loved to have done 40 pages, but budgets and scheduling, it becomes a little bit trickier. So yeah, it was really cool to kind of just adapt that and make it into something that was sort of more contained. And yeah, working with Nancy obviously, and Mikey and Katja, we adapted the script a little bit on the day, so it'd be kind of like we'd listen to it, see how it sounded, and make adjustments as we needed to, just to bring the authenticity to the character, and also to just kind of see how it sounds. Because again, you don't really, the script obviously, it's not like you can just see it and it works perfectly. You have to kind of hear the language and the dialogue, and when you hear someone say it, you kind of go, well, actually this would sound better like this. So it's like making those little micro adjustments and stuff like that. But I always think it's very collaborative, and having Paul on set as the writer was great, because we could kind of be like, we're not sure if this line is quite landing how we wanted it to. What do you think we could change it to? And we'd talk about it and collaborate and make it work.
You just answered one of my questions. I was about to ask, was Paul on set whilst all this was going on? So it must have been quite good to be able to sit there and go, hey, what do you think? And probably not have that fear where you've changed dialogue and then you have to go to the writer and go, hey, just so you know, I've tweaked these words.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Paul's great. He's really good at the whole collaborating, and we'd kind of find problems together and solve them together. So it was all very much everyone was involved in the script. Even Nancy, I'm sure you had some suggestions on the day, and we'd change things that kind of would make it better for you. And we had some really funny lines in this, so it was really fun just to kind of play with the delivery of things and just try out maybe a different improvised version. So yeah, it was really cool.
And what was the shooting schedule of the film? Obviously, like you said, budgets are tight. How many days did you have to film it?
Was it 3, Paul, if I remember rightly? 3? Because we had
Yeah,
one.
3 days.
Yes, yeah,
days.
it was 3. Yes, so
The
first day was
first,
the beginning of the film with Nancy in the apartment, and she was doing, must have done
push-ups.
200 push-ups and sit-ups and hits, and it all takes about the first 2 minutes of the film of that, and the other 2 days were in the bar, which was in Manchester. So yes, and obviously we got it filmed as quick as we can, and all the fight scenes with Sharice and Ronan and Keith and Rob, who were involved, all did brilliantly. And I think Nancy threw herself into that because she obviously had only just learnt those basically on the day, so it was all good. And I'm sure Sharice would have liked longer, but unfortunately, we had to kind of do it in that time.
And Nancy, does being a dancer, that physicality, help with the fight scenes? Presumably that means once you learn the choreography for those, it's your dancer training comes in. Does that help, or is it two very different disciplines?
Well, I would say that definitely helps because as a professional dancer, normally like with a fighting scene, especially because it's all active, like physically active. So when I have to remember all the things from where to where, like that's kind of my skill. I've been trained since when I was little. Yeah, so I would say dance skill definitely helped me, especially with my But also, I would say there's a similar, a little bit different as well, because before Dakota start, when I know, when we confirmed that we're gonna doing it, me and Mikey, we have prepared for like a month. We tried the different angles, see how it's better with the screen. We tried and we did train a lot. So I think dance as foundations, but of course it's martial art. There's a martial art is the actions, the power using, it's different than dance. So yeah, but it it all helps.
And Sherice, for you as a filmmaker, editing a fight sequence, that must be quite complicated in that you're trying to make sure logistically it all works together. Can you tell me what that process is like once you've filmed it from your different angles, you're sitting in the editing room, you're trying to put it together? What's that like, and what challenges do you face?
Yeah, of course. So we're really lucky that we worked with a good friend of mine called Ronan Trainer, who was our stunt choreographer for the shoot. And together we kind of did the edit together for the fights and things like that. I've shot a fair few fight scenes now, so I'm kind of getting much better at kind of picking up which angles work for certain things, like different angles on different hits, and trying to make things look like they've landed. So I'm getting better at that. But having a stunt coordinator who can sit beside me and go, this doesn't work because the angles, your punch is like this far off, so actually it looks more like it's missing. And having that sort of back and forth with someone who's like an expert is like incredibly useful. So that really, really helped. But yeah, I'm definitely getting much more of an eye for it when it comes to like, trying to cheat things, because we've got like a foot stomp, we've got various kicks and sort of like some Wing Chun sort of style punches and stuff like that. So playing with the different forms of martial arts that Dakota does, it's quite interesting just seeing, what angle you need to be for like the smaller hits to look more dynamic. And it's all of that sort of stuff. And there's a few things where you're like, oh, it's just slightly too high, but then it's kind of trying to find, if you can speed ramp things, and playing with the edit to make it look just a bit more authentic. And then sound plays a massive role again in terms of the believability of it all.
And Paul, as a writer, one of the things I'm always very curious about is, you see elaborate fight scenes in films, and sometimes they're really incredibly detailedly scripted, and sometimes it just says they fight. How do you tackle it as a writer? Do you go into detail or offer suggestions, or do you just go they fight? How does that work from you?
Uh, in the 40-page or 40-page script, the fights were kind of detailed on there. But so, with Nancy and Mikey, when they meet in the bar, that kind of scene was kind of near enough how it was written. But then some of the other scenes, obviously because of the location, budget, etc., and effects you might have needed, we couldn't do. So the other fights were kind of worked around on the day. But and again, I'm happy, on working on a feature length script for it. So sometimes you will just put, say, fight scene, because it depends on who's got to be in it, what level of competence they've got, what's budget wise, what you can do, etc. And again, as Sherice says, they may come up with better ideas or something that works better than what's down on the page. So I'm extremely happy with how the fight scenes have turned out, and it's everybody worked really hard to come up with these, and as I say, everyone was throwing themselves around set, doing all the scenes, and did very well. There wasn't much room to work with in the hallway and in the bathroom scene, so the actors did very well working around that bit.
And Nancy, for you, it must have been great where somebody comes to you and says, "I would like you to star in my film," and they give you a script. It must be quite good that when you look at it, you're not playing the damsel in distress, or you're not playing the girlfriend or the wife. You're playing this kick-ass character. What was that like when you sort of first opened it and looked at it? How did that feel?
Well, first of all, I would say I'm very, very lucky to be able to get this opportunity. So thank you to Paul and the Sherice. But yes, I think talking about Dakota, I would say there's a little bit me, Dakota inside me as a Nancy Shu. And I grew up in China. my favorite type of movie I loved to watching when I was little, it was a fighting thing. I always imagine when I was little, I always see the people just flying and the kick, all the actions. That gives me goosebumps, and I just love it. I found it so interesting and obsessed about it. And you know what? I have had this how to say this? How do you say that kind of English? Like very bossy in me. So if someone is really bad, I want to give them a kick, give them a punch. No, I wouldn't do this in my real life. I get in trouble. But Dakota kind of has given me this opportunity, you know, and to be able to show this side, and that's why I felt like I I get the character of her. As we mentioned before, it was when the first time I had the script, it was like a 40 pages. It was that much. So when I watched it, I was getting so excited. I was like, yeah, yeah, she's so cool. I don't know, like, because in the end, the scream has cut in for 10 pages. So there's a story before we cut a little bit. But actually, Dakota was kind of make a revenge for her sister. So her sisters got missing. And then, she want to find a bad guy who has done bad thing to her sister. So she's actually protecting somebody. So because I've read the script before, that gives me even more strong story within my mind. I said, okay, if I ever have a little sister who has get bullied as a big sister, how I'm gonna do this? Yeah, I will be the person. I want to find the bad guy. I want to kick them ass. So that's kind of things helps me, and I do have this side in me as well. Obviously, Dakota has really. I would say I'm being very lucky. Like find Dakota, and I can play a little bit with.
And Paul, as Nancy just said, that the original script was 40 pages. That's not too far off a feature script. Is a feature-length version of this something that you guys are working on developing? Is this a proof of concept? Is that something that's in the offing?
Um, yeah, I've done a feature script, and then we've helped like with Sherice, who's helped go with it as well. So it's on about the third or fourth draft moment. So hopefully, fingers crossed. And again, it's something hopefully comes to fruition at some point that there will be a feature script. And as I say, we've got the short film that's doing well in film festivals at the moment, and we might be looking at doing, say, another fight scene in the future to go with it as a proof of concept. So hopefully, enable features to be made.
And is this something, Sherice, once you've got a short film, that when you're going out and trying to raise money or kind of schmooze with people with the wallets, does having a well-made proof of concept film help you as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I would say it definitely does help. I mean, I think it's a lot easier to get someone to watch a short film than it is to go, here's an entire feature film script, just read that and then give us some money, please. So yeah, I think it does massively help. And as I say, it's only kind of just starting out on its festival journey. So hopefully that will get some more eyes on it, and people will start to kind of see, this character is actually really interesting, and there's so much more potential in the feature. As Nancy was kind of touching on, there's this whole story with her sister that we kind of don't really explore because we're in such a small snippet of what this world is basically. So yeah, I think having the short film, people will hopefully see it and be kind of interested to figure out more about it, and yeah, maybe want to read the feature film script and give us more money, please.
Hey, finger crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
And Nancy, have you read the feature scripts or the even longer version? Have you read that, or are you waiting for everything to
Yeah.
come together?
Like I don't know what's a feature script, but I have read the script before, like the 40-page
Yeah.
version. I really like it. I really like it because I just think um not not mention anything, but I like deep inside me, I love the heroes kind of movies. especially female heroes. So that when I'm watching the script, I start having the image in my mind. I start picturing because Paul has written like things very specific, all the details. So it allows me to have more imaginations, the angles, the actions, the attitudes, the environments, the people, everything is there, and I am very exciting. Eventually Dakota can become a future movie, and it's gonna be great.
And this, obviously you guys are now promoting this film, and Nancy, you've been on tour as well, so you must be kind of exhausted fitting all the promotion in amongst everything else that you're doing, because presumably if you're on tour as a dancer, you just don't go out and dance, you're still training during the day. How do you fit it all in and keep the energy going?
Well, I would say if I do it just for work to earning money, I will feel exhausted. But if I'm working on something that I have a passion on, I loved, I just felt like, yeah, I have a good time with it. I wouldn't consider it something that I have to do mandatory. I can be very honest with you. Now, like we have a break from the tour. Every day I need to go to gym. That for me is exhausted because it's not something I'm passionate about it. Do you understand? So yeah, even like I have to promote something, that's fine. As long I'm in love, and I just felt like every day is a new day. It's an amazing day to celebrate. So yeah, I don't feel tired at all at that point.
And to backtrack up a bit, Paul, going back to where the film came from, you said it sort of originated in sort of lockdown. How did it come to you as a film, and what made you decide that this is the one I'm going to sit down and write? Talk me through that process for you.
Well, I've always liked action films, kung fu films, martial art films. So I grew up as a teenager in the 80s, and that's when you discovered Jackie Chan, Van Damme, etc. And so you was always a fan of those type of action movies that had a bit of a sense of humor, a good lead character, and good action scenes, etc. And there's probably only Scott Adkins say can't make them at the moment. And so I always felt that'd be the type of character I'd want to make. And at the time, I thought it'd be better if it was like a female lead character, and it wasn't. Dakota takes punches. She does. She gets hit. She gets hurt. It's not like she's indestructible or anything like that. So it was always thought it'd be more interesting if it was kind of the lead was a female, and it kind of come from that. Love of film from the 80s, 90s, B movies, direct video, DVD movies, and all there's a lot of those that are kind of missing now. Everything's a huge budget movie, so we hopefully you can find a niche for these type of movies. And as you say, being the first one, obviously it's very hard to find a backer or get somebody to make it for you. And fortunately, it's been able to be made, and over the moon with it. I don't think it could have turned out any better. And fingers crossed, we get more adventures from the future. Or we'll just have to call it Nancy kicking people, I think, from now on.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, guys, that's a perfect place to end it. Can I just say I really enjoyed the film. I really do hope that it's successful enough that you guys can make a feature out of it. And I can only imagine that if you made a feature out of it, you could possibly make a sequel to it as well. I get the feeling there's probably franchise potential. So
yeah, that was always the idea, to lead it set up for a sequel or leave it open for a sequel. So hopefully, like I say, if we get one made, that'd be amazing, and hopefully there'll be further adventures.
Well, I look forward to it. And can I say, Nancy, Paul, Sherice, thank you for taking the time today. It has been, like I said, a pleasure. And yeah, I hope in a year and a half's time, we're doing this again. We're talking about Dakota Stone, the feature-length movie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Naya.
Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Movies in Focus podcast. You can download it wherever you get your podcasts, and I hope that you tell your friends about it. That's it for this time, and I'll see you at the movies.